Sharon W. Reynolds, President and CEO, launched DevMar Products with an idea to distribute environmentally conscious pathogen remediation products. Sharon is the founder of DevMar Global Healthcare Solutions, a distributor of human donor milk for at-risk infants. Bryla J Couture Clothiers, designer-inspired fashion for a purpose for the fashion-conscious woman. And DevMar Manufacturing, a facility providing quality control oversight for its specialty products. Sharon, picking up from where we left off last time.
You mentioned, you thought about going to college. So let's talk about that for a minute. Had other members of the family gone to college, Ms. Reynolds, before you?
Well, of course, I was the oldest at the time, oldest child, and
I mean, like your parents or grandparents.
My parents. So my mother and father had their high school educations. My paternal grandmother was a professor at Fisk University.
That's right. Yeah.
So she had her degree. My grandfather. So it's no one really during that time that I remembered. My grandmother, my maternal grandmother's sisters, the Allen family, were all educated. So I do recall knowing that some members of my family were college educated. I actually met my husband when I was 18 and we married at 19. We stayed in school, but that was very, very early on and didn't expect that. Didn't expect to be married at such a young age. I mean, I really wanted to be a dancer and do some other important, fun things before I really settled down in life. But as life would have it, it ended up being the best decision I'd ever made. We're celebrating our 44th wedding anniversary this October.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you. So I went on to get my undergraduate degree and also was the inaugural class at Tennessee State University for the Executive MBA program. Was really proud of that. And I do plan to pursue my PhD when get a little break with raising some of these companies I'm working in right now.
So where did you end up going to college, Ms. Reynolds?
I went to TSU, I went to Belmont University, and I finished at the University of Phoenix. At that time, I just had, I was pretty much making my own choices, my own decisions. Now, if my daughter or son had come to me at that age and wanted to get married at such a young age, I would just be, oh my gosh, it would just frighten me because, kids just aren't that mature. But it was something about our relationship that we know God put us together because we were wise beyond our years, very mature, very responsible. My husband had been working since he was 9 years old. He was from a family of 10 kids. He was in the middle and he had become an entrepreneur by the time he was 12. He had his own paper route and was cutting grass and painting houses, so he knew how to earn a dollar and save it. And it was just a really unique situation that we came together at such a young age. We didn't have our first son until we were married 7 years. We bought our first house when we were 20. And we owned several properties by the time we were 25. We're both the same age. I owned a mortgage company when I was 25 years old. I went in partnership with a gentleman who was very well thought of in the community, very wealthy Jewish man. And I loved he and his family. And I brought some expertise there that he was looking for. We sold the mortgage company by the time I was 29, and that was the most money I'd ever seen. And my husband and I started investing in real estate and construction and flipping houses and doing different things as that's what really helped to kickstart my entrepreneurial journey. But going back to the time that we told our parents, there was some shock. We got married anyway. And they saw that, up front, my mother and father knew I was responsible. And when they learned about my husband, they knew he was responsible. So they just let it happen. And I'm glad they did because it turned out to be a really, really good choice for both of us.
Well, it certainly sounds like it. So you mentioned something which I got to ask. because you said you thought about being a dancer. So just tell me briefly about that.
So I remember, this is going to sound so funny, when I was probably maybe 7 or 8, maybe. And I remember seeing this woman dancing in a box above a stage. And back then they called them go-go dancers.
Okay.
So, she had on these white shiny boots, this patent leather boots, and she was just having a great time. So I went to my father one day and I said, Daddy, I want to be a go-go dancer. And I thought the blood just drained out of his face. I'm like, what in the world? Why did he react that way? So anyway, I love dance. And when I was in high school, back then we called them halftimers during the basketball games. And I was the captain of the halftimers. And I loved inventing dance moves and choreography and things of that nature. And I remember my first time seeing Debbie Allen and what she did in her dance on Fame and some of the other things that she was doing. I just wanted that. It was just something that I just dreamed for to be able to accomplish. And then, of course, life would happen and one thing led to another. I still love dancing, but I'm glad I took the path that I took in terms of meeting my husband, getting married, getting started with life and having our children and raising several businesses.
Yes. No, well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. So tell me, this is fascinating. So you talk about owning a mortgage company. You own property. I think you said you bought was it a construction firm?
No, it was a mortgage company that I owned. And then when we sold it when I was 29, my husband and I got into real estate quite heavily.
Okay.
We bought and sold houses. We kept some for rental property, got into constructing some of them from the ground up.
Okay.
And in that real estate realm, it was quite fascinating.
So how did you get involved with a mortgage company? Where did that come from, Ms. Reynolds?
Yes, well, when I was, 19 or 20, I actually worked at a bank while I was in school. And I was working in just a room full of, it was the bookkeeping department. It was just about 50 women, and it was something going on every single day. That situation was just not for me. And there was a bank across the street, a small bank, it was First Tennessee Bank, never will forget it. And during my lunchtime, I thought, that looks like a really calm and quiet place to work. So I remember walking into the bank and I just made a left turn because I saw 3 women sitting there. And I went over and I asked them, I said, well, what is this? What department is this? What division is this of the bank? And one of the girls, she looked up and she gave me kind of a terse look. And she said, this is the mortgage business. And I'm like, oh, great. I said, are there any job openings in this division? She says, no, we don't have any job openings. Remember, this was like in the early 80s. And so I thanked her and I just turned around and the dress that I had made and sashayed out of there. Before I could get to the front door, there was a gentleman that stuck his head out around the office and said, excuse me, may I ask your name? And I said, certainly. My name is Sharon Reynolds. I work across the street. And I just came to see if there were any job openings. This looks like a great place to work. I mean, I was fearless. He said, come on back. Let's talk. I did. And his name, well, I don't know. He's still in business, so I don't know if I should name him, but he was my mentor in business. He brought me back to his office and he says, let me ask you something. He said, spell mortgage. And I'm like, is this white guy asking me to spell mortgage? And I was the spelling bee champion in school. So I spelled it and didn't forget the T in mortgage. And he thought, he was just joking a little bit. But he said, you know what, we do have a loan processor position coming available in the next few weeks. And if you're interested, it's a trainee position. Our business is growing. And if you could bring your resume tomorrow, let's talk about it. From that moment on, it absolutely set me in my directional path in my career, in my journey. I became a loan processor trainee in spite of the young girls that were there that didn't want me there. Oh my gosh, there's another story about what I went through. But finally, I won them over. I was a hard worker. And for that particular branch, I became the branch manager of the mortgage division 3 years later. And so that was just the kickstart of the mortgage business for me. I spent some time in the secondary marketing division at another bank. I wanted to learn what happened to mortgages after they were closed. What happened to that paper? So it was secondary marketing. Loans were sold into Fannie Mae, Federal National Mortgage Association, Ginnie Mae pools, and we were doing a lot of interesting things, showing how money was made behind the scenes. It was similar to what do you call it? It was similar to legal gambling. I would say it was unbelievable how you could take those pools of mortgages and mark them to market and see so much money being made in the banks. Shortly thereafter, my partner in the mortgage business that I was a joint owner of called me and asked me if I would come and sit down and talk to him about the opportunity. He was going to launch a mortgage company and would I play a leadership role. Didn't have any idea about how to run a mortgage company, but I knew about all the nuances that it took, that were involved in the mortgage business, mortgage banking business. So I remember it was on a Sunday, and I was sitting in their home in the subdivision an area called Belle Meade, very exclusive area in Nashville. And he asked me if I would consider coming on board. This was our third meeting. And I said, well, absolutely. I said, I'll bring sweat equity. I'd like to own part of the mortgage company. And he says, well, that's not a big deal. That's not a big ask. He said, maybe what about 5, 6, 7%, you think? I said, no, 50%. I was bold. I said, 50%, I'll be the hardest worker. I'm your partner. We'll grow this mortgage operation to something spectacular. Well, I ended up owning 30% of the mortgage company, sweat equity coming in. A company called Biltmore Mortgage Company out of North Carolina acquired us in 3 years. And so then that's what really launched my entrepreneurship in other areas. But that was my story and my journey as owning a mortgage company and selling it.
So tell me, you mentioned the gentleman who, called you back to his office and he became your mentor. What was special about him? What did you learn from him, Ms. Reynolds?
Gosh, he actually, in addition to my Aunt Gloria, taught me the value of having excellent credit. At the end of the day, you pay your bills on time, because if you don't have good credit, you really essentially don't have anything if you're going to be in business. I remember having a small account from a small retailer back then. And when I ran my credit report, because I wanted to see how it looked, it had like a 1/30, like one time 30-day late mark on my credit report. He brought me back to his office. We talked about it. And he said, it took me through this lesson. Always pay your bills on time and make sure that these payments pay more than they ask. Make sure you're not late on any of these, any of your, if you're granted credit, any of the payments that you're granted, make sure you pay them on time. And then he would also tell me about just maybe some life lessons in the mortgage banking business. Told me about his career and how he came up. But he was more than anything, he was a great listener. He was a very, very kind man, but very, very motivated and smart. And he wanted the best for me. And I don't know where he came from or why he was entered into my life, but now in retrospect, I know that he was supposed to be there because he was yet another stepping stone that would get me where I needed to go and where I needed to grow. So he was just a great mentor. And I think he was really fascinated to see that, I was so young and already married, and had already owned a real estate. And I was just so driven at that age and was willing to work hard, would stay late, come in early, and just get the job done.
And he was white?
Yes, okay. White male. He was a white male mentor. He was fantastic. We still stay in touch a little bit today. So he's one that I can really give credit to, that gave me that launch in the mortgage banking world.
That's fantastic. So what made you decide to leave the mortgage business? You've obviously had this phenomenal success. Why change lanes, at 29? Obviously, your company's been acquired. You said you've got more money than you know what to do with. Tell me what was your thinking in terms of leaving the mortgage business and then going into real estate?
Sure, that's a great question. So I don't know if you remember the savings and loan crisis.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so I was approached by this big company to travel around the United States to analyze those portfolios of the S&Ls as the crisis hit, and those S&L institutions were closing down one by one. So I did some work for the Resolution Trust Corporation that was launched by DC to go in. And I traveled everywhere from, oh my gosh, New York all the way to Orange County, California for about 3 years to do that. It was just something different I wanted to get involved in. It was a challenge. The pay was excellent. I was actually able to just live off the per diem and just deposit my bi-monthly checks. It was incredible. And to go into these savings and loans to see what the pirates, I mean, they were absolutely just robbing the customers blind. It was crazy. There was one savings and loan in Orange County, California, where the CEO actually was day trading and had his own helicopter pad at the top of the bank. It was crazy, and everything else in between. So I did that for 3 years and really learned a lot of lessons, life lessons, and just another segment of industry. And when I came back home, I decided to get my real estate license. Fascinated with real estate, would do some of my own investments, became a real estate broker within 3 years, and what soon became the real estate agent for the relocation. I was dubbed the relocation specialist, working with major corporations that would relocate or would locate to Nashville. And I also worked with oh gosh, I remember the Tennessee Titans. I had them as an account for 10 years. It was a lot of fun. They came in as the Oilers. And so that was just a fascinating journey. I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. Became the top 25 agent of 3,500 licensees in the Nashville SMSA area, and was probably closing up to 60 transactions a month. Wow. It was a great time until it wasn't. And that was when the economic downturn hit in 2008.
So are you working with your husband at all during this time in terms of real estate, Ms. Reynolds?
So no, I actually had several assistants. He launched a business called Reynolds and Reynolds Facility Services. Today, that company is 34 years old. And so janitorial, facilities management, facilities maintenance, really growing it to be a multi-million-dollar organization and a regional company. Had its 8A, SBA 8A certification in a hub zone, and just lots of opportunities regionally, was partnering with a lot of big companies. And so he was having a great time, had his own team, had up to 300 or 400 employees. So he was busy all the time. So even though we shared office space, we were actually going in two different directions. And I remember asking him when my real estate business was just going bonkers and it was so busy. I said, we could be a husband and wife team. I said, you see that out there. This would be fantastic. We could double our revenue and it would be wonderful. He says, no, you stay in your lane. I'll stay in my lane. And this was before the economic downturn. And I'm so glad he did not listen to me because, real estate market just crashed and he was still able to maintain his facilities management company, because at the end of the day, you still have to have clean and healthy spaces. And so his business was very relevant at the time, even though the market crashed. He was still under contract with a lot of companies to still continue his business. He lost some, but was still in there to be able to support the family and the employees. He didn't let one employee go during the economic downturn, because we were concerned about where are our hourly employees going to work? What's going to happen to their families? Average family that worked for us had at least 5 or 6 people in the family. So that weekly paycheck was important. Yeah. So we did things that we needed to do so that we did not have to let our team go.
No, that's fantastic. That's what a great philosophy you and your husband have, because obviously lots of business owners don't treat their employees that well. So that's fantastic. That's a testimony to the both of you and to him. Wow. So the economic downturn happens, the real estate business, falls apart. What do you do? What's your next step?
So I think I might be the queen of pivot. So, oh my gosh. So my husband has this vibrant company, and real estate has just fallen out of just the market is terrible. I'm just so fortunate that I was very judicious with saving my money. I didn't spend it on everything. So we had a pretty hefty savings. So I decided to launch a company and name it after our 2 sons, Devin and DeMarco. Today, Devin is 34 years old. He lives in Shanghai. He's launched 3 companies. He partners with Nike. And he is the boxing, he's the boxing champion in Shanghai. So it is really interesting to see how his life has really gone in the entrepreneurial direction. And our older son, DeMarco, is 36, and he works for a major company here in Nashville. And he and his wife have our first grandbaby, Bryla Josephine, who's 4.5 years old. Had to get that out. It was just incredible about them. So I was able to come to my husband and say, look, I don't have anything to do. I've got to think of something. And I really am a natural germaphobe. So that helped me. I said, I am going to sell you janitorial supplies. And I got a little pushback a little bit, because he had a really good opportunity to buy them wholesale, which had a positive impact on his bottom line. And I said, no worries, let me go to the source and I'll talk to them about pulling together a relationship so that when I have contracts, I'll buy from them as well. So we worked it out, and I was able to buy those supplies and sell them to Reynolds and Reynolds. So named the company DevMar Products after our 2 sons, and the rest is history. Within about 60 days, I had a small contract with the school system to be able to provide Jan-San. And then within a year, we became a local company. We had our first major contract with Metro Nashville Airport Authority. I was the first woman to have that contract in the airport's 75-year history, which was dismal, but good for me because I'm trailblazing at this point. And then shortly thereafter, I think within 18 months, we were a national company providing one of the largest Fortune 500 companies in the United States at that time for us, lots of their Jan-San needs and chemicals. Shortly thereafter, I thought it would be best to differentiate my company. You know, we all need the Me Too products, but what's going to set DevMar apart? What's going to make me different and unique in the marketplace? And so I decided to partner with the Morehouse School of Medicine's research team, and we came up with a product that eradicates pathogens. It goes into a lot of technical detail, but at the end of the day, that product has 5 patents, is tested successfully against COVID-19, and we are right now looking to get our EPA emergency exemption authorization number to deploy it across all sectors of the military as ordered by the U.S. Central Command. So, so that I just went in that direction. One thing led to another. We've got several Fortune 500 customers today that are our partners, and we distribute to companies across the United States, including some of the largest retailers in America and some of the largest hospitality groups in the country. Really, really proud of that. And as we continue to grow DevMar to multiple levels.
That's fantastic. That's many success stories within one. That's unbelievable. And it all stemmed from the real estate collapse and you being a germaphobe.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. We also launched DevMar Manufacturing, and any of our products that are subject to EPA or FDA regulatory compliance, I really would like to have that oversight. We do have contract manufacturing in place, so our products that are especially ours, we'd like to have that oversight. We also launched DevMar Global Healthcare Solutions, and I partner with a company out of Portland, Oregon, where we distribute commercially sterile, safe human donor breast milk for at-risk infants in NICUs across the country. One might say, well, how is that tied into what else I've got going on? I have a passion for anything that matters. And quite frankly, it was a godsend because 3 years before my grandbaby was born, I partnered with this group, and it's the gold standard. It's mom's milk. At-risk infants have a hard time digesting bovine or cow's milk. You're hearing a lot of things right now in the news about formula, and it's just not really good for babies. We're not meant to drink another mammal's milk. It's mom's milk that's the gold standard that really launches the growth and everything else that's successful in a child's life. So I was able to partner with that group, and 3.5 years later, my grandbaby was born. She was born prematurely. We almost lost she and my daughter-in-law to preeclampsia, and I was already involved with NICU. She started nourishing on that milk from day one for about 6 months, and her growth was amazing, and cognitively she's fantastic. She came from a dark place to where she is today, and she's just a vibrant 4.5-year-old. And I give credit to her being able to nourish on the milk that I support. Mom's milk, it's the gold standard. So anyway, so that's how that company has come along. And then I was so inspired by her survival that I launched a clothing line in her name called Bryla J Couture Clothiers. And it's clothing for a purpose. So part of the proceeds we donate to charities. And we're just able to push all of our companies in the right direction. I was interviewed I think it's a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I do have quite a few businesses, but all of them get attention, all of them get fed. We have different teams that are working in different sectors of my companies. But I'm just a very serious entrepreneur, and I want to really do things that matter. And in order to make a difference in my community, make a change that's necessary for our at-risk kids and communities, it takes money to do that.
Yeah.
So my husband and I are both dedicated to making sure that we are part of the solution, just like we're part of the solution with my partnership with Morehouse School of Medicine's research team with our cleanup product that eradicates pathogens and COVID-19. So with every company that I've launched, is making a difference in someone else's life, and I think I've done my job.
That's fantastic. And when the Morehouse is dear to me, my grandfather, he graduated from Morehouse back in 1927. So that's fantastic what you're doing. So tell me then, so what's sort of the next steps? I mean, you talked about, and you don't have to give me any secrets, but where do you see your company's going? What new companies are you envisioning? What's next for Ms. Reynolds?
Well, Adam, I think scaling is next. DevMar Manufacturing is poised to be $1 billion enterprise in the next 5 years. Okay. We're doing some really significant work to make sure we're growing in that direction. From the products that we have patents for, to partnering with major corporations, Fortune 50s are a couple of them that we're looking at. And in that facility, we will do some really unique things, bringing new products and technologies to market. DevMar Products will be the channel distribution partner of DevMar Manufacturing. So those two companies will play well off of each other. DevMar Global Healthcare Solutions with NICU is the name of the product, NI-Q, which is the mom's milk, which is the golden standard. There's only one other competitor in that space. So we're really, really in a great position to be able to make sure that our sickest infants are nurtured in the NICU. And then there's another iteration from that product that I think is going to go really well that will successfully impact Crohn's disease. And it's about mom's milk, and you think of the gut and how we start out with mom's milk in the first place and our guts flourish as infants. Same concept as adults who are experiencing Crohn's disorder. So that's also something that the NICU team is studying. And then, of course, DevMar Manufacturing is looking at a facility location somewhere in the Southeast. We think we'll accomplish that by the third quarter of this year. And then with Bryla J Couture Clothiers, of course, when the pandemic hit, we weren't able to be as robust with that line. When people are thinking about surviving, the clothing industry took a major hit, but it's coming back. So we're working on a new line. And I'm also really proud to say that I've been commissioned to make certain purses as accessories for certain groups. I can't make the announcement right now, but it's going to be pretty good when I can. And you can find a lot of our product in the Metro Nashville Airport in the Tribune store, which Rosetta Miller Perry is the owner of the Tribune paper. And it's a very highly sought after African-American news report paper, and it's just fantastic in our community. She's unbelievably sharp, and I love everything that she's done to positively impact African-Americans in business. Well, she just recently opened a store at the airport, so our product is located there in Nashville, soon to grow across airports across the country. So it's what's next for me and what I do as an entrepreneur. I want to partner. I want to partner with organizations who are like-minded, who share my vision and my goals, and that is to have a positive impact on children who are in communities, in at-risk communities, in schools where they need support. We do a lot of things that will make a difference, and I want to bring along the companies that I partner with that will help me elevate that or escalate it to another level, so that our kids and communities can have equal share in all the great things that are going on in Nashville. No child left behind. Well, I say no community left behind. We all have to be there together to support one another in this great city of Nashville.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm looking forward to watching you continue to grow and expand. It's very exciting, very exciting. So two things. One, how many employees do you have, Ms. Reynolds? Approximately.
Combined, we have about 50 employees with my husband's company and my company. We're in the same office space, so we cross-train everyone. It's really a great economies of scale. It's fantastic. As we move into DevMar Manufacturing with our own facility, we don't really need that many employees to get done what we do. We drop ship a lot of our products directly from other manufacturing partners. So we'll probably end up with, I'd say both companies, probably about 50 or 60 employees. I want to keep it right at that sweet spot, because if we can get done what we need to get done with that level and without going to, extended numbers of employees, then that's really best for the company. It's also best for our bottom line. Yes. And we can share some of the bounty with those loyal employees who remain with us.
Yes. So you've had a hugely successful career. And what would you say, if any, the challenges of being a Black woman throughout this time, through your experiences, your successes, and even now for the future? What are the challenges of being a Black businesswoman in America?
Wow. Well, in my industry, it's a white male-dominated industry. It has been, oh my gosh, from the very inception of being taken seriously. And we say access to capital. I'm so fortunate that I was able to bootstrap the company right out of the economic downturn. And it's not so much as having access to capital. The capital is there. It's taking the capital down and being able to bring it into your business and finding people who have the power to be able to grant you that capital that's necessary to grow your business to the next level. Mm-hmm. So that's always a challenge for African Americans in business, and just women in business in general, especially Black women. I am very engaged in an organization called Women Business Collaborative, the WBC, which is a prolific organization that I serve on the board, and also I co-chair the advisory council. So it's equal pay, position, and power for all women, and in particular, women of color. And there's a special emphasis on African American women. So there are 9 action initiatives associated with the organization. Access to capital is one of them. Women on boards, women in the C-suite, entrepreneurship and capital are just a few of those 9 action initiatives led by Edie Frazier, who is the CEO of the WBC. One of the most prolific organizations I've ever been a part of in my career. I'm also one of the founding members of Black-Owned Women, BOW, headed by Nicole Kober. And I'll say about that very briefly. It is from contacts to contracts for African-American women. There's so much more that goes along with that. I won't steal her thunder. That's someone you absolutely should interview, and I'll give you her information. Okay. But I am really, really focused on making sure that the next generation of Black women in business have access to everything possible to help them become as successful as they can be. I mentor a lot of women in business, and my focus is on Black women because we have unique problems and challenges that our white female counterparts don't even think about. Yes. So it's been a journey. Has it been, sleepless nights along the way? Absolutely. Have there been some really significant and tough times in raising these companies? Sure. But I'll channel my Aunt Gloria, who is in the back of my mind saying, don't ever take no for an answer. Find your yes. And I'm going to find my yes. I find it all the time. And if someone tells me no, I'll go find the yes and get it done. So I will get it done.
So I'm curious, in terms of people of color, Black people, Black women, in terms of obviously in schools, high schools, let's say start off with, entrepreneurship, as far as I know, is not taught at all. And young people really aren't exposed to that. Obviously, then maybe if you're lucky enough to go on to college, maybe you get some exposure there. But how do we sort of fix young people getting more exposure to being their own bosses, being entrepreneurs? How do we sort of fix that, Ms. Reynolds, at the younger levels?
Sure, Adam. That is such a good question. And I'm always open for mentoring young girls in our school system. However, I'm going to go a step further. I also am on the advisory board of Enterprising Women, one of the greatest, I think, organizations led by Monica Smiley in the United States. So Enterprising Women Foundation does just that. We go into at-risk communities and look at their high school demographics and make sure that we can identify young girls who want to be entrepreneurs, and it's centered on STEM. So this will be the third year in a row that we've done this with the help of a sponsorship of Alliance Bernstein, who's been gracious. So we go into the schools, we bring in a panel of highly successful women in STEM, which would include entrepreneurs, healthcare professionals, engineers, you name it. These women are incredible. And I always look for minority women in particular, because the schools that we have impact are predominantly African-American and children of color. So we have the panel, and they're mentored throughout the whole day. We try to get it off-site in a place, maybe downtown Nashville, so that the young girls can really feel something different going on, feel the beat and the beat of the city, and really enjoy the outing, and are mentored by some of the most well-recognized and unbelievably dynamic women in the city. So that's what we do for the young girls. And at the end of it, each school will select their 2 top young ladies to come to the national conference. And the young girls are selected by their peers. It's an incredible program. Love it, love it, love it. So that's for our girls, and that's where I get involved there. And then for our young men, there are lots of programs going on in Nashville right now that are headed by men who are mentoring our young men, because both our girls and boys need that support. Yes. So that's something that I'm doing, and we're actually going to do it again this year. COVID kicked us out last year. Our girls couldn't travel to the national conference in Florida. But it's all expenses paid, mentoring here in Nashville locally. And then we go to the national conference, and these women are coming in from all over the world, and they experience great levels of mentorship. And it's an experience like none other that I'm so happy to bring to Nashville in our public schools.
Well, no, that sounds fantastic. And I would definitely, I was familiar with the first 2, and I'll definitely check out Enterprising Women. That sounds, what you guys are doing is fantastic. Very exciting.
A lot of fun.
Yeah. So I've kept you now for wonderful conversations. I'm not going to keep you much longer, but I wanted to sort of wrap up with, give me some of your sort of golden nuggets of, if you're talking to, as you already do, you're talking to young people, especially in high school, young women, young Black women, and they ask for your advice. What do you tell them, Ms. Reynolds? What nuggets do you kind of drop on them?
Oh gosh, well, I guess depending on the audience, if I'm one-on-one with a young lady who is looking to be an entrepreneur, and I'll tell her, I say, this is the hardest thing you'll ever do. There's no substitute for hard work. Get rid of the fads and the gimmicks. There's just nothing to replace that true grit and hard work ethic. And find your passion. And when you find your passion, you're absolutely going to work on that job, or work in that business, or work on your entrepreneurship, whether you get paid or not. And when I say that, I get this look from them. So like, find your passion, you'll stick with it. If it's something that you enjoy doing, you will do it whether you receive a paycheck. Now, the goal is to get paid and grow your business. Now, that's what you want to do. Yes. But it's something deeper than that. And always have a give back component to whatever you do, whether you're an entrepreneur or whether you work for another organization. Always have that give back in your business plan. And then always have a business plan. Look, there are all sorts of tools out there that can help you get started. There's no reason to not have your plan in place. But really make sure you understand that you're going to work a lot. You may have to work weekends. You may have to work extra, extended hours during the week, whatever it takes, and have that whatever it takes mentality. Don't take no for an answer. Everybody's not going to share in your joy. And sometimes your family members can be your worst critics. So remember that. Love them, but feed them out of a long-handled spoon, as my grandmother would say. Help them whenever you can, but don't get caught up. Do what is necessary to be successful, but always do the right thing, even when no one is looking, and never, ever delve into the gray area. If it feels gray, get out of it. Seriously, it's either black or it's white, and always do what's right. I always talk to them about making sure that your credit, going back to my early mentor, make sure you have great credit worthiness, pay your bills on time, try to save as much as you possibly can, put away for a rainy day. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, have a 6-month emergency fund. I mean, come on, Adam, I can get, I got a lot of things to say. It's not a few nuggets, it's a lot of nuggets, because I want to give back and hopefully talk about some of the pitfalls that I went through, that hopefully that, the next level of entrepreneurs, women, Black women, especially young girls, don't have to go through. It's okay to fail. Yeah. I failed several times, and what products am I going to put out there that are going to be viable? I put some ideas out there, and, I was just snubbed. It's like, okay, well, we'll go back to the drawing board, but we're going to figure this out. So it's a lot of great things, and just enjoy business and enjoy life, and always put God first in your life. You put God first, what he has for you is for you. And always give honor to our mighty God.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. I'd love to get a chance to talk to you some more at some point if you ever have the time. It's been an absolute privilege to get a chance to talk to you about your life and your success, and sharing again the experiences and the nuggets. Thank you so very much.
Oh, I'd love to, Adam. I would love to. And thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for the work that you're doing in keeping our history alive.
This is the Black Experience for all. If you like what you hear at the Black Experience, please consider clicking on the join button to support our nonprofit. I'm Adam P. Kennedy. Thank you for joining us.